Okay, today we're going to learn a little bit about bottles and cones and how to use those to apply
beautiful dots to your mandala. Let's get right into it.
Okay, let's have a look at what I got. I got some paint bottles.
And lots of different nozzles with different colored lids, but the gauge is all the same on them. It's, I think, 1 millimeter.
And even, this is the most exciting part, is there are funnels to get your paint into your bottles. And there are caps for your bottles as well. Let's look at what this is. Is that caps? I'm not sure. Oh, I think this is so that you can put that over top of you could put this on your bottle and that can go on top of the nozzle. Okay, I think that's all the colors. But honestly, they look like they are the same gauge. Anyhow, let's give them a try. Let's get some paint and give them a try. Okay, I have ocean blue and fuchsia pop. We have our little funnel. And let's see how that works out. It's going. Yes, that's helping to get that paint in there.
This is not a fast process.
We're going to let that one work away. And then we'll start a second one with the pink. Brand new bottle of fuchsia pop. Yeah, I think the funnel is going to be the way to go. It might be slow, but you can just let them kind of pop down at their own speed there. What somebody needs to create is tops to go on these bottles that you can use with the nozzles right on the top. That's what I think would be easier. So this is going to take a while and we'll come back to you when we're done.
Finally! Yay, we've got enough paint in there to work with them now. Okay, let's go ahead and create some dots with these paints in bottles. Now, it really all depends on the amount of pressure, how hard you're squeezing, as to what size of dot you're going to get. So you're going to have to practice with this and practice getting tiny dots and getting larger dot and practice getting them closer together without them bleeding into one another. And you'll have to watch for air bubbles. You don't want a big splat of air coming out with your paint as well. Like that. You can make beautiful uniform sized dots, and you can make many different sizes of dots using this one tool. So really, once you've mastered the bottles or the cones, you can create a lot of dots without dip, dot, right? You've just got all that paint right there, and you can make so many different sizes of dots. It's also great for doing random dots in a shape. or piping on lines. And these little caps are great so that your paint doesn't dry out. And you can do swooshes with the bottles. You can either do them with the bottle themselves or add the dot of paint and drag it with a tool. Let's make a flower with the bottles. Okay, so that's the basics of bottles. Now let's have a look at using paint cones. Using paint cones has a lot to do with the consistency of your paint and the amount of pressure that you place on the cone to create a wide range of dot sizes. So we have these cones here that I purchased on Etsy, I believe, but we're going to learn how to make our own cones as well, and then we'll talk about the paint and the paint consistency and what you want, what type of dot you want to get when using your cone. And you can make tiny little dots or great big puffy dots. So let's get into it.
Okay, paint cones. So I ordered some online, which are fabulous, but I thought, hey, you know what? We've got to learn how to make our own here, right? So I had this cellophane wrapping from something I bought on Amazon, and I just measured these out into 4 by 4 inch squares, and we're going to cut those so we can make our own cones if we need to.
Lots of people use old chip bags that they cut up into squares.
Now this isn't flat because it's been wrapped around some artificial flowers for a while, but we'll flatten it out and it should work just fine. Otherwise, you can find cellophane bags and that at Michael's, and you can cut them up into the sizes that you need. I think 4 by 4 is pretty standard for making these paint cones. You don't want them too big or they'll be hard to press. So I'm going to flatten these ones out, and I've got one that's fairly flat, that one there, that we can try and work with to make our own cone. Okay, so I have my 4 inch by 4 inch cellophane, and I'm just bending it over here to make a point at the one end, okay? Just kind of crease that. And then we're just going to start rolling this in and just starting to make our cone. Okay, now obviously that's very wide at the end, so we're just going to keep turning that and pulling that down until we get a nice tiny tip. And once we get that, we want to fasten down this piece. Okay, so you can see it's quite tiny at the end there. And then I'll probably take another piece of this tape just to ensure that there's no leakage points
along the edge.
And I'll do the same along this piece that is
running along the side.
Just so that there's nowhere that the paint is going to leak out. Okay, so that's how you make your cone. And then you'll see how small that is. You may have to
cut the end, but very little bit, because you don't want a big end or your paint may just run right out of there. So you don't want that. That will work. Okay, so now let's talk about the paint consistency going in here. So, okay, my friends, let's talk about paint consistency for our paint cones. These are heavy-bodied paints, and for the most part, if you use them straight from the tube in your paint cones, they will likely leave a peak on the top of your dot. So we'll probably add a little bit of pouring medium if we don't want the peak. If you do want the peak, fabulous, right? Just go straight from there. If you wanted to use just your Deco Art paint, now if you put that in your cones, it's just going to drip right out, okay? Because it's too thin. So you can add some gel medium to thicken that up a little bit. So why don't we go ahead, and we've made a paint cone, and I have several here that I have purchased. So if you're using the heavy body paint, you will more than likely get peaks on your dots, which is fine. If that's what you want, then that's what you should just use, the heavy body straight. But if you want more softly rounded ones, then you're going to add some pouring medium. Now I have already added pouring medium to that. Okay, what you don't want is when you first pour that, you can see it just holds its shape, right? So obviously if you make a dot with that, it's going to hold a peak onto the top of that as well. So let's try adding this paint to our paint cone. I've got tape ready. Add this paint in. I find if you scrape it off on the lower edged side, it's a much cleaner process. If you get it up on that upper part, it gets quite messy. Okay, so now we've got the paint in there. We want to sort of squish it down. Okay, and then I'm going to get rid of this mess up here. And then we're going to fold. I'm going to fold that over. I'm going to fold that over again. Okay, and then we're going to take some of this tape. And we're just placing the cone end in the middle of that band of tape. And then we'll wrap it around it and fold it over. It's awkward, but it'll work. It'd definitely be easier if you had more of the tape pulled out ahead of time. And then I'm just placing a piece of Scotch tape around the whole thing there. Okay, let's see what that one does now. Okay, still leaving little peaks. Again, it's playing around with the paints and their consistency to make them perfect for using in the cone. So the first one I felt was a little bit thick, so I've added a little bit more pouring medium, and we're going to try this one in a second cone. So this one is thinned even more. And we're going to try this in our little homemade cone. Okay, we'll give that end a little bit of a cleanup, and then we'll fold it over twice and put our tape on it. Okay, so that is going to be the thinner one. And I'm going to have to cut the tip, which I want to be very, very small. So now we have a thicker one and a thinner one. I say now we're going to try the Decorated Americana. Okay, which typically is too thin. Okay, so we'll add some gloss gel medium to thicken that up a bit. Putting about that much in. And I've put a lot of paint in there, so I think I'm gonna have to add more of this. Still very thin. Almost there. Again, I've made a lot of paint here, so remember, we want it to be thicker than dotting consistency. Let's give that a try. Now with some of these cones, they already have quite a large hole. So I'm going to add some tape at the bottom to narrow that down, so I have a smaller lumen. Okay, let's add some of that thickened Purple Cow Decorated Americana paint. Fold that over, fold it over again, and secure our end with tape. Okay, so that is with thickening the Decorated Americana paint. Right now it seems a bit thin, but we'll see how it works out. Okay, let's take some of this green from Amsterdam. And I tried just using this straight heavy body paint, but it was too thick, so I did add some pouring medium. And then we've got Liquitex Basics, which I found to be quite thick, so it took quite a bit of pouring medium to get it to the consistency I wanted. Which you just want to look inside and see how thick that still is. So. And again, it is just sort of playing with it and getting the right consistency for yourself. You can see though that just leaves a peak right up in there, right? I'm going to add a little bit more. And I'll just keep adding until I get the right consistency. Just a little bit of trial and error. Now something you have to think about too is after you've made your paint, used it, and you still want to save it, is securing that end so it doesn't get gummed up. And now I don't have these, but most people will put a straight pin in that has a ball head on it so that it won't dry out on you. Alright, so that's the Liquitex Basics with lots of pouring medium. Okay guys, we're going to check out our paints now that we've mixed together. And we started off with the Arteza or Arteza, however you pronounce that, in neon pink. And this one, we thinned more than this one. This one has a larger hole than this one. So let's try out the dots on this one that wasn't thinned out as much. And I can see that it's leaving a peak. Let's see, we can make some tiny dots. It does want to pull up the peakiness, so you'd have to be careful of that. Okay, make a big dot. And then I would just bring that peak to the center. And then we'll make a line. Lovely, makes a nice thin line. So we'll look at this one now. It has a smaller hole down at the end and thinner paint. If the hole were bigger, it would just flow right out of this, right? Lovely. Very nice. Now see, it's the dots are so much nicer. They're round. These ones are kind of got odd shapes because the paint is just a bit too thick. You can see even that, moving that around, like it's just holding its shape, right? Okay, so thinner paint makes a nicer dot. So what did we do? We added pouring medium to that. And you just have to play with the consistency till you get what you want. The next one we used was the Amsterdam. It's another heavy body paint, and I think we left it a little bit thicker. So we'll see, make some dots here. It's actually making nice dots. You do see that it has the tendency to pull up. So when it's thick, it does that. So you just, and that's fine, just be careful when you're doing it, but it seems to be settling back into a nice rounded shape. So that's beautiful. And each of these paints will take more or less thinning to get them to the consistency you want. So you'll have to work with the different brands to figure out what it is you want. Okay. Okay, let's make a line with this one now. And if you're steady with your pressure, you should get a nice, beautiful line. Okay, so that works really well as well. And this one is the Purple Cow from DecoArt Americana, and we added gloss gel medium to make it more of the consistency required for using paint cones, because otherwise it would typically just flow right out of the bottom of your cone. And you know, you'll want, everybody has lots of the DecoArt Americana, I'm sure. I got my hand in the paint. Always test it out on something before you go to your piece, okay? So let's try some of these dots. Oh yeah, they're beautiful. All right, let's make a line with that. Lovely. Okay, now you can still see those first dots that are thicker are holding that peak. Now you might want that peak, so if that's what you're looking for, make sure that your paint is thicker. So this was the Liquitex Basics, and we added quite a bit of pouring medium to that. It was very thick. And let's see the dots that we can get out of there. They're quite nice. Okay, so that's several different types of paints that you can use in your paint cones. Decide what type of dots you're looking for. If you want peak dots, you'll want heavy body paints, and you don't need to thin them too much, if at all, depending on what you want your peaks like. If you want rounded dots, you're either going to have to thin your heavy body paints or thicken your craft paints, your craft acrylic paints. You don't want them as thin as you do for dotting, a little bit thicker than that for sure. And the thinner the paint, the smaller this hole needs to be at the bottom of your cone. Okay, hopefully that helps. And you can incorporate using cones in your dot art mandalas. I would suggest just playing around with them. Try different designs, try making swooshes, dots, plumpy dots, and yeah, just have fun with it. And then of course the cones are perfect for creating random dots. Again, it's not dip dot, dip dot. You've got all that paint and you can create whatever size dot you want, just depending on the pressure that you place with your thumb on the cone. So listen, thanks so much for joining me. I hope that you've enjoyed the series so far, and we will see you at the next module, where we will be painting a 6x6-inch canvas. So get one all prepped up and get ready for the next module. Bye-bye for now, and remember, keep on dotting. You won't regret it. I promise you that.